Revelation 16 is right there. We're right in the middle of the tribulation events that go from chapter 6 to 18 that are constantly flipping between two cameras. Heaven, earth, heaven, earth, heaven, earth, And the angels come up and they blow their trumpets or dump their bowls, and we see them in heaven, and all of a sudden we see what it's doing on earth. And as soon as you get that time and space, the history and the geography going, the book of Revelation it's just the most beautiful script for a movie that God sent us. But if you don't see that, it gets real confusing. So always look for, where are we? Are we up in heaven around the throne and the angels and God and the angel leading John around, or are we down seeing what's happening on earth? But this is what we're looking at. What happens when people get what they really want? See, God, Ecclesiastes 5 and verse 2 says, be careful what you say. God is in heaven and you're on earth. Let your words be few. What is Solomon in Ecclesiastes saying? He's saying God actually hears what you say, and he reads your heart, and he knows what you really, really want. Watch out. You might get it, okay? What happens when people on earth get what they really want? Earth becomes literally a living hell. What do I mean by that? Chapter 16 gives everyone on earth an opportunity to experience what hell will forever be like, and gives them a chance to say, God, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that. Because remember, during chapter 16, we still have that gospel angel going, hey, you can fear God and turn from your sin and worship him, but if you don't, here comes another bowl. Okay, number 1, verse 1. Then I heard a loud voice from the temple. So where are we? We're in heaven. Saying to the 7 angels, go and pour out the bowls of the wrath of God on the earth. Now these bowls, again, remember, 404 verses in Revelation, 800 connections back to the Old Testament. It's massive. It's like a web. These bowls are right out of Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. All that tabernacle stuff, all those sacrifices. Part of what they're doing there is they're collecting blood in these bowls and doing all kind, and the other offerings in these bowls. What they are is they're kind of like, if you ever go to a really high-end, Italian restaurant, they don't have round bowls that look like cereal bowls. They have these wider, shallower, and they bring out the pasta in these fancier bowls. That's what these are. They're not deep. They're shallow and they're wide. And so these angels are walking out with these basins or bowls of wrath, God's anger poured out on sin. And they're picturing for us how God dumps his wrath on the earth. And they go like this. So that's what happens. And they pour out the bowls of wrath. So the first angel went. He poured out his bowl on the earth. And look what happens. This is the gross part. A foul and loathsome sore came upon men who had the mark of the beast and those who worshiped his image. Life without Jesus is kind of like incurable cancer. That sore is like a picture. And remember I told you about Frank Peretti, the Christian fiction writer in the 80s that wrote the most amazing book about all this stuff about angels and demons and the unseen battle going on. And one of his books, he portrays sin as black tar oozing out of people. You can't see sin. I mean, the actual spiritual entity of sin, which is rebellion and lawlessness against God. It's invisible. It manifests itself in behavior, but you can't see sin. So Peretti illustrates sin like this black oozing. And people would be talking, I mean, it's really gross, and the black would ooze out of their mouth, kind of like they were lying or whatever. And the people would be, men would be looking at women, and black tar would be oozing out of their eyes. You understand what I mean? He was saying they were sinning. And he illustrates sin with black tar. God illustrates sin like a foul and loathsome sore, like a cancerous tumor growing on people. Wow. Now, how are the people reading this supposed to get something good out of that? Well, Revelation, we have hope because they were living immersed in a sea of lost humanity, And lost humanity believes in evolution, reveres the earth, denies biblical creationism. So God sends the final divine environmental destructions to show them who's in charge. So the early church was saying, wow, all these people around us that have built these 100-foot high temples with these giant columns and everything that their whole life revolves around, the judge is going to get their attention someday. Now we hope he gets this group's attention now when they hear the gospel. So God the Son, the Creator, systematically destroys the atmosphere, the oceans. That's what these bowls are. And they're seeing him get the attention. And by the way, the chapter we're in right now ends with one of the most well-known parts of the Bible. And we use Armageddon is in language all the time. Recently, a coastal storm on the East Coast, they called it Snowmageddon, you know. And then they had this traffic jam, and they called it Traffic-mageddon. What are they talking about? They're news people, Weather Channel, CNN, New York Times. They all know the vocabulary of the Bible, and they know that there's this big thing coming. And that's what we're looking at.